Hermiston City Council and Urban Renewal Agency to order, January 4th, 2022, 7 p.m. In order to follow public gathering and social distancing guidelines set forth by state authorities, a limited number of chairs will be available for citizens to attend the meeting in person. Those attending must also wear a face mask. The city will live stream the meeting with apps. You can access that information on our website at the City Council agendas. You can do that through Zoom. You can also call in and email in. And tonight we're going to allow participants to actually participate in the comment sections of our meeting, either through Zoom or email or by phone. And Lily will be communicating that with us this evening if we do get any participants that want to participate in that electronic format. We do have a declaration of quorum. All members present. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start out this evening with, there's no changes, right, this evening? We're going to start out this evening with some citizen input. So if there are people here this evening who wish to speak to the City Council regarding items that are not on the agenda, we'll get to the agenda items later, but those that are not on the agenda, please come up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, direct your comments to me, and try to limit your comments to less than 5 minutes.
My name is Dave Hansen, 936 West Hartley Avenue here in Hermiston. I just wanted to introduce myself to you since you just appointed me to your budget committee last meeting. I'm here in town and I'm willing and able to help in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We appreciate your willingness and your new member of the community and your willingness to step up and help support your new community. So we appreciate that. Others? We're going to move on to the consent agenda items A through D. We need to pull any of those. Any public comments on consent agenda items A through D? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Councilor Davis, second by Councilor Trimmer, that we approve consent agenda items A through D. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. On number 7, public hearings, annexation and agreements. Annexation and comp plan amendment, Castillo Hackler, 4N2811BA TL 100, 201, and 600 through 600 East Elm Avenue, 535-555-615 East Jennings Avenue. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest in council? Seeing none, will now be presented with the hearing guidelines and staff.
Okay, and bear with me. Are we carrying through the mic?
No.
Probably going to have to do all. Okay. The applicable substantive criteria relied upon by the city in under the decision to annex property are contained in 15005. The Hermiston Code of Ordinances, the applicable substantive criteria relied upon by the city in under the decision to amend comprehensive plan map and zoning map are contained in 157-226 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria described above or other criteria in the comprehensive plan and land use regulations which personally apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue by close of the record at following hearing in person or by letter precludes appeal to the land use board of appeals based on that issue. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity before the decision maker and parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the issue. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local board's designee responded to the issue precludes an action for damages as a report. Prior to the conclusion of the evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The City Council shall grant such request by continuing public hearing pursuant to orders 1977636B, or leaving the record open for additional written evidence, arguments, or testimony pursuant to orders 1977636C. For this hearing, the process begins with staff report, followed by testimony from the applicants and other supporters of the application. This will be followed by opponents to the application. Finally, rebuttal by the applicant can be allowed. The public hearing portion of the procedure will then be closed, and the City Council will consider the information and testimony received, adopt findings of fact, and render a decision on annexation or comprehensive plan. For those wishing to submit testimony by email, the email address is meetings@hermiston.or.us. Emails received after the close of the hearing will not be accepted and not considered.
Thank you, Clement. We're going to now open the hearing. City staff will now present its report.
Okay, and tonight's City Council is holding simultaneous hearings on annexation and rezoning of 13 acres of land between East Elm Avenue and East Jenny Avenue. Next slide, please. So, there's a lot of moving parts, so I thought it would be best to have slides tonight, just to help illustrate everything. This map shows the total area that's under consideration. It's the area highlighted in pink on your map. Different land is proposed for annexation than for a comprehensive plan and zoning map. There are 2 lots that are being considered for annexation and 1 that is being considered for comprehensive plan and amendment. Next slide. Perfect, thank you. So this map shows the existing conditions for comprehensive planning, as well as an aerial photo to give you a feel for the land use that's on the ground. The land that we're looking at is highlighted in white on this map. It's this area right in here. And it's currently designated as open space in the north portion, and then medium density mobile home residential on the south side along East Jenny Avenue. The area around the river property, as you can see, has several different comprehensive plan maps, can have designation with the varying densities of residential. You can see our highest density R4 land here along Jenny, and then here where the old general and mobile home park was. This is a duplex development of medium density. This is low density residential where city public works are, and then we have more of the R4 along the Elm frontage, and then low density residential south of Jenny. Additionally, you have open space to the east of the property where the Baker's Pond is, and then commercial land directly north of it on the north side of Elm Avenue. There are 2 properties that are proposed for annexation. These parcels are described as 428 11BA, tax lots 100 and 600. Tax lot 100, which is the largest parcel in there, is owned by Robert Castile. Tax lot 600 is owned by David Hackler, and Robert Castile has a purchase agreement on that property. The 2 parcels are designated as MH, adjacent to East Jenny Avenue, and then open space for the rest of it, as I kind of talked about in the comprehensive planning discussion. The annexation that is proposed is bringing them in with the existing zoning designations that are there, the OS and then the R4 zoning designations to the annexation. However, the City Council is holding a simultaneous hearing to change those plan designations to commercial and R4 and get the open space designation removed. City services are available to service these parcels. Following annexation, municipal water and sewer are available on East Jenny Avenue and will will soon be in East Elm Avenue as well. The tract was designated as open space back in the 80s as a result of the National Wetlands Inventory that was in the air, that was in the comprehensive plan. At the time, back in the 80s, the federal government, when they were designating that, basically did wetland designation via area code. And so they look at it and go, wow, there's a lot of vegetation there, and a lot of potentially standing water. So the wetland at the time was about this big. And as we were going through our periodic review back in the mid-2000s, we had a wetland zone come in doing some of our just preliminary wetland work for our local resource inventory. And this site was identified as an area that was potentially not nearly as large of a wetland as what it was designated on the National Wetlands Inventory. So when this proposal came before the city, we had our engineers, Anderson and Perry, go in and do a full delineation. And as you can see, they marked it down to 0.46 acres is what is actually wetlands. So rather than being an area that's a quarter of the property, it's less than 5%. But the delineation of the wetlands does take a little while, and it has to be approved by the division state plans. And so you'll notice in your annexation ordinance that's before you tonight, it has an effective date upon acknowledgement of this delineation by the DSL rather than 30 days after it happened. So that should something come up in the delineation process, the city can still pull back from that. It's not immediately annexed upon passage of the ordinance. And then the planning commission recommended that the city council annex the property as requested. They held a public hearing back in the first part of January and determined that this was an appropriate change to the comprehensive plan and city limits. Now, to kind of bring you back around to the portion of the area that's on changing the comprehensive plan, we have all of this area that's blue and red on your map is currently open space, and then the MH is down here. The comprehensive plan amendment that's before you tonight changes the north 13 or 600 feet of the property to commercial, as well as changing tax lot 201 to commercial. That's the catcher's piece that we talked about during the hearing guidelines. Basically, this parcel was included so that there would not be an island of 0.8 acres of open space, which would then be very constrained in the future, very difficult to ever potentially develop or sell. So we chose to include them with the rezoning. They chose through us, we held a landowner meeting, and they did not wish to participate in annexation at this time. So we're only changing the zoning from open space to commercial. And then this 8 acres down here changes to the MH units to residential. So the changing it to commercial is really intended to accomplish two goals. The first is to place the land with appropriate zoning that is reflective of its location as a large tract that's on a minor arterial street. Placing commercial property along Elm, which has about 7,000 trips a day, is a pretty good way to get future development on the north portion. And then the south portion with the MH allows it to develop with higher residential densities that are consistent with areas to the west as well as to the south, where we see a lot of duplexes and manufactured dwellings. And then the other reason, and the reason why the city agreed to be the applicant on this, is that in exchange for the city being the applicant and doing all of the legwork and preparing the applications, upon approval of everything, the applicant would then dedicate this area here that's east of our public works yard for future public works expansion. And again, when you're looking at amending the comprehensive plan, you really need to consider how those zoning designations work with the surrounding neighborhoods as well as future land uses. And we did a traffic impact analysis with Hermiston Perry to look at trip generations out of each of these developments, and the findings of those reports is that trip generation is consistent with the carrying capacity of the streets that are serviced, and no additional improvements would be required. So there is minimal impact, what they call the minimus impact of the change on the network transportation infrastructure. So the Planning Commission at their hearing back in January did make a recommendation that the council adopt this change as well, and this would be the second ordinance that would then take effect upon annexation. The council, as you're considering this, can choose to approve the annexation and not amendments as proposed. You can choose to approve the annexation as proposed, but maybe a different percentage of zoning, or to deny annexation. With that, I would be happy to take questions.
Okay. Council have any questions at this point? There will also be another opportunity for the council to ask questions after public testimony.
And this document, I think it's already, will it go to the planning commission?
Yeah,
It's already.
Councilor Burrow.
I like the proposal. I do have a question in the manufactured home spaces. I have a question regarding manufactured home spaces, and knowing that to the left where it says manufactured home, there's more manufactured homes, I guess I wonder if there's any area or space for a park or a community gathering space in that area. I know that there's a park, the part of the Trailblazers helped out, close to the Public Works or the Water Department, but I feel that where that manufactured homes are, it's a slightly different community, and I don't know if they're really free and go to the other parts. So I guess I'd like to see if there was a community space that could be put in there, or a park or a gathering spot. Just because, as we probably know, a higher density, there's probably less space. So a park or a proposal for something like that. I'd ask Mr. Castillo or the Planning Commission.
well, and you know, part of the reason why the city is so interested in acquiring that middle acreage is for that exact reason, because there is still half an acre of wetland that needs to be protected. You know, we can't build on it, we can't fill it, and we can't put public works on that. So ideally, what we would like to do is, as we're thinking about this, when we create a lot for the city, it's going to need to have a flag access out to Elm that could potentially create in the future an access and parking area to access either the wetlands wholly by themselves, or if the city ever does get into an acquisition, they could fund it.
Thank you.
My question is on the commercial part that's right there on Elm. Depending on what type of commercial endeavor goes there, how could you say there will be minimal impact?
When we, minimal impact is not necessarily, it's not going to generate trips. It's that the street itself has a certain carrying capacity that works out about 15,000 trips a day with the way it's built. And this, even if it develops in full density, is not going to push it towards that carrying capacity or push it above that carrying capacity.
Even with all the truck traffic that, okay.
Like I said, right now it's taking about 7,000 trips a day, which is a third of its capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Thank you. We will now take public testimony. Any person speaking must state their name and name and address and limit the testimony to 5 minutes. Are there any proponents who wish to speak? Any neutral parties? Any opponents? City staff will now present its findings of fact.
In your staff report, you have two sets of findings, one that accompanies the annexation, and then one that accompanies the comprehensive plan map amendment and rezoning. I would recommend that those findings be adopted by two separate motions. Each ordinance reflects a different set of findings that have been adopted.
Okay. Nothing in the finding of fact you wanted to highlight.
It might be interesting just from a technical standpoint to kind of consider some of the residential need findings, just because we did that residential work and how much capacity we have, and that adding in this extra land. This one is actually, as R4, is meeting one of our most deficit zoning designations. So our most affordable zoning, this is taking it from about 40 buildable acres to about 55. So that's going to help us long term.
A couple questions that I had. So 8.5 acres is going to be residential, right? And has the owner made a comment about development of that property? Will it be additional mobile homes like the old Dunn property, or do they have plans for that property yet?
He has some ideas. There's a couple of short-term homes, single-family homes that he would like to build for family members that would probably take up about 2 or 3 acres, and then the balance of that would be for additional residential development at a later date. But as far as whether that's multifamily or a small cul-de-sac going in there, we have not gotten to that point yet.
I did have some concerns like Mrs. Rowan expressed earlier about the gathering spaces. Just because that park, or that current mobile home park, really is surrounded by fencing, there's no real egress in there except for off of Jenny. So the park is a long ways for those kids to kind of walk around to get to. The park is really close actually, but because of the way that mobile home park is designed, accessing that park is kind of cumbersome. So those kids could potentially be just playing around in there, having some gathering spaces. I think would be nice for the community neighborhood. The other question I had was the 3-acre gift or exchange. About half of that, though, not quite half, a third, is going to be designated as park or water, right? So wetlands. So is it very useful to the city? Or is this going to be maybe a bigger burden to us than benefit?
Well, for most of what we need at the public works area, in that area is mostly laydown space. And once we have more additional laydown space out to the east, we can build additional buildings like up along Elm, where we have a master plan to create a new street shop eventually. So hopefully that will help with our long-term storage needs and help us utilize better the area that we have.
Aligned plans and city administration has to that space. And what about the giving in the park and expense and stuff?
Yeah, we were very happy to be part of this process because without this land, as far as being able to shuffle things around, we'd probably have to look at another property and completely move the public works yard. But I think this allows like money to move things around, utilize the layout space that might be more irregular, and then be able to put buildings where we need them and be able to use that. And we really appreciate the partnership with the owners and felt like it was a good use of our funds to kind of make that partnership work.
Excellent. Do we have plans for the wetlands?
Not immediately. Clint mentioned Baker Farm area. We're actually in discussion with the ownership of the owners of that to see if there's potential partnerships that we can work with them. And with that larger land area, then we could create a more substantial park space, and that could be a great asset to the city. So this is kind of the first step along that path.
concept and the idea of an internal water feature park. We don't have one, I guess, Riverfront is an internal water feature park, but, you know, some of those, like Baker's Pond would be a nice addition to the parks. Inventory. Other questions, comments? Yes, Council Chief?
So, since it is a designated wetland, would we have to be concerned with very specific environmental protocols about taking care of it? Would be basically, you know, parenting it after that point, because we do take responsibility for it. Would we have people that we have to speak to in regards to, you know, maintenance every year about, you know, keeping it in good condition as of that one? You know, as far as parenting and maintenance, what are we looking at?
I don't think that it will be a huge burden to do that, but we do have access to some environmental specialists through Anderson Perry that can help us make sure that we, you know, do the things that we need to maintain it in a proper manner. So I don't think it will be a great burden.
Any other comments from the council or questions? Okay, so what we're looking for is two different motions. First, a motion to approve the finding of fact as may be amended, in which we have recommended amendments for the annexation. So I'm looking for a motion to approve finding of facts for the annexation. So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Councilor Kerner, second by Councilor Davis, that we approve finding of facts for the annexation. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve finding of fact for the comprehensive plan map amendment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Spicer Spoon, second by Councilor Harden, that we approve the motion finding of fact for the comprehensive plan. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We move on to ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2335, annexation 4N2811 tax lot 100 and 600 East Jennings Avenue. City of Hermiston.
Yes, so we've just discussed this item. If there's any additional questions that may come up, we can address those at this time.
So this one is in regards to annexing the property, correct?
Correct. And then the next ordinance would be changing the comprehensive plan.
Okay. So Mayor requests first reading order to go to panel and also roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
By title only, ordinance number 2335, an ordinance annexing certain real property abutting the East Jennings Avenue, describing said real property, withdrawing said real property from special districts and designating zoning.
Mayor requests the order to be put on final adoption of this meeting and second reading by title only, also roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Sutton?
Ordinance number 2335, an ordinance annexing certain real property abutting the East Jennings Avenue, describing said real property, withdrawing said real property from special districts and designating zoning.
Is there any public comment about ordinance number 2335 annexing these tax lots 100 and 600 of East Jennings Avenue? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion that ordinance number 2335 be adopted in effect 30 days after the State Department lines and accepted wetland regulations adoption by the City Council. Second. Now, it's been motion by Councilor Rowan and will be seconded by Councilor Kerner. We approve ordinance number 2335. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Now, on ordinance number 2336, comprehensive plan map amendment to rezone 4N 2811BA tax lot 100 201 and 600 East Jenny Avenue, East Home Avenue. Any other comments on this one?
Just to make sure, remind you of clarification, Mr. Spencer gave that we're changing the comprehensive plan map designation for 3 parcels, one of which was not included in that annexation ordinance. But because it's in our urban growth boundary, we got planning authority over that.
The mayor requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only. Calls for roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Chuck.
By title only, ordinance number 2336, an ordinance amending the city of Hermiston comprehensive plan map and zoning map.
Mayor requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption this evening and the second reading by title only. Calls for roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Is there any public comment on ordinance number 2336? Seeing none, can I get a motion that ordinance number 2336 be adopted in effect 3 days after the effective date of ordinance number 2335 as adopted by city council? Yes?
Did we get both readings up?
Yeah. Didn't you do both? No?
I think we only get the first one on that.
All right, Mr. Tully, sorry.
Ordinance number 2336, an ordinance amending the city of Hermiston comprehensive plan map and zoning map.
Yes, you were correct. Let's get that over this. Sorry.
No problem.
Any public comment? Okay.
Yes. Also, just wanted to, this is more with council, I don't know from Mr. Castillo, if we can relay this message, but if it does continue to be medium high density, Riverfront Park, I don't know if I'm not gonna say that as a stipulation, because we don't know if it's gonna be built there yet, but I think we're gonna take that into consideration, that is what he wants to know more.
Comments on the record? Any other comments on the council? Okay, can I get a motion that ordinance number 2336 be adopted in effect 3 days after the effective date of ordinance number 2335 as adopted by city council? So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Councilor Kramer, second by Councilor Davis. Ordinance number 2336 be adopted in effect 3 days after the effective date of ordinance number 2335 as adopted by city council. Roll.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. That was a lot. A lot going on.
Yeah, that's, but make sure that we can explain all the different moving parts.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more complicated. So looking forward to seeing what happens when it comes to that annexation and property adoption. Okay, resolution 2206, well number 6, backup generator award. Mr. Smith.
Yes, this is one of our sorry, I'm going to turn over to this word. Capital improvement plan projects and talking about all that.
Welcome, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, as the city manager mentioned, this resolution will award the purchase and installation of a backup generator for well number 6, which has been our capital improvement plan since 2019, the original state adoption. The resolution was awarded to Gordon Electric for $336,000. The original cost estimate on the project, the original capital improvement plan was $280,000. When we got into the actual design of the project, we determined that this area was really a candidate for, instead of doing a diesel generator, you're doing a natural gas generator due to the infrastructure that was existing out there. Suffice to say, there's a lot of operational efficiencies that will occur. I just want to make sure you natural gas, but in order to do that, you have a little bit higher upfront capital cost than the diesel portion. So that's why it's been recommended as is for $336,000. There's plenty of budget in the water and sewer utility fund to cover the site overtime.
I guess I didn't understand the last comment, slight overage.
Yeah, so we have the, what the original budget for this current fiscal year is budgeted $320,000, $336,000. I thought that.
Sorry, I misunderstood when I saw the engineer's estimate, came in underneath the engineer's estimate, but we had projected the budget last month, right?
Correct.
Any public comment on resolution 2206, storm versus back? Seeing none, I get a motion to adopt resolution 2206.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Brown, second by Councilor Rowe, that we adopt resolution 2206. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Resolution 2207, adopting the revised city design standard and specification manual. Schmidt.
Yeah, so Mr. Morgan can walk us through a slight change we want to make to the standards and specifications that you approved a few months ago.
Yeah, so as City Manager mentioned, this is a relatively minor change to the Public Works design standards, but really the reason why I'm doing an actual presentation on it is because it concerns something that people have a lot of strong opinions on. Opinions, I'm sure the council will receive questions about here over the next, over the course of the next year. So, first off, There we go. So first off, what is a swale? So this is just one, Google Street View of our subdivisions here in town. So we have the street, the curb gutter, sidewalk, and the swale is that grassy ditch that is between the street and the sidewalk that you see around the community. So this is actually a relatively one of our original subdivisions that received this type of stormwater treatment. Where you can see we actually had a raised curb there, and so you have these curb cuts to allow stormwater to run off the street and get into those grassy ditch areas. So that's really what this is it's an area for stormwater when it lands on the impervious street to end up and go somewhere. And so that's what those ditches are for. So that's been the city street standard for residential streets since the late 90s up until 2018. So in 2018, we were able to get that standard changed finally for new construction to go back to what we had done prior to the late 1990s, which was allowing the water to flow to a curb and then essentially get injected underground. You have the piping and vault system underground, so the water just goes and percolates directly into the ground, so you don't have those big ditches basically. So instead of having a ditch, now you can have something that's flush with the ground and goes right into the sidewalk there. And I say if possible, because what that system does is it has these big vaults underneath the ground, and if the bottom of those vaults are less than 5 feet from groundwater underneath the ground surface, then DEQ does not allow us to install those. And really, it's all about protecting the groundwater from the chemicals and things that wash off the street, get into the ground, and then it's too close to the groundwater. So what we have is that if it's possible for new construction, they're required to put the water in that type of a system. But if it's in an area of the community, a lot of the main lower lying parts of the community, we have relatively high groundwater. If that's not possible to install that system, we do still allow subdivisions that have come in since after 2018 to construct a street standard with the swale option. So in November of 2021, we updated the public works standards to now also include this as an option. So we have swale option number 1, which still allows for the ditch option. Swale option number 2 now allows for creating this rock pocket, which does not have grass in it. It's just basically a trench in the ground with 1.5 to 2.5 inch fractured basalt rock, so that you can have flush with the ground surface rock, basically, so the water still flows off the street, gets into that rock pocket, infiltrating the ground, but you don't have the ditch that people step out into. So that works well for new construction. If you're going in and developing a new street in a greenfield area, putting in all of the infrastructure at the time, it's relatively easy to just take a backhoe and just dig a trench and put that option in. But what we're asking this evening was, we realized that really doesn't work for if you're going to be going and retrofitting this into an existing subdivision. We realize there's a lot of folks that are probably going to want to fill their existing ditch in. Now that it is allowable, you don't have to have the grass in there if you follow this standard. But without, really the only change we have in the standard this evening is we're changing from a direct vertical trench to a slight slope there. And that's really also that if you're going in and retrofitting an existing area, you don't, with our sandy soil, start to see a lot of slough, and then that can start to undermine the street, the sidewalk, and those types of things. So that's the relatively minor change to the public works standards, is really just changing those from straight vertical to also slope sides. Also this evening, here just kind of shows you, the risk that you have going in and retrofitting one if you just dug that straight down 2 feet, you can start to see some slough off. Also, some of the conversion risks, if we just start to allow folks to go in and fill that swale in with soil or even pea gravel or something like that, a big justification for having that system there from a stormwater or floodwater management standpoint is even though we have sandy soils that can accept water relatively quickly, even with a relatively normal storm event, you'll still see a small puddle start to occur in some of these ditches. And so you have to have some place for that volume of water to be at least temporarily impounded until it can seep into the ground. It doesn't instantaneously go in. And so, that ditch still accounts for almost 1,400 gallons. And this is just a regular 60-foot long swale in a residential area. It's about 1,400 gallons of above ground holding capacity until that water can get down in the ground. So from a community flood management standpoint, we have a really strong public interest in making sure that stormwater management infrastructure remains functioning and isn't converted in a way that doesn't allow for that type of holding capacity. So we borrowed this standard from Eastern Washington. Washington is lucky enough to have 2 statewide permits for their stormwater management. Oregon only has 1. That's why we've had this grass and swale standard for so long, because it works on the west side of Oregon, but it doesn't matter over here. So we were finally able to get Oregon DEQ to accept and approve this Eastern Washington swale standard that does not have grass vegetation in the swales. And so this standard is what is allowable under the Tri-States. And so that's what we've got Oregon DEQ to buy off on. But again, it requires large fractured angular basalt so that you have large voids in that rock pocket to allow for the volume of water to be in there. If you're to fill it up with other materials like soil or pea gravel and those types of things, it's not going to function the same as what that neighborhood stormwater system was originally designed to accommodate. So what we're recommending in order to allow for that conversion process is to essentially have city street crews begin a process to allow residents to come in and request for the street department to go in and do that conversion if the resident is willing to pay for that process. So this year they would come in the building department, request a permit to do that conversion of an existing swale, and put down a $250 deposit to hold their place. From there, it would be a first come, first served basis. Every year, city street crews bring on seasonal workers to do crack filling in May and June. The street department would just simply keep those seasonal workers on longer through the summer. Crews would go out, verify the dimensions of the swale, determine what the final cost of that swale conversion is going to be, and the resident would then pay the margin between their deposit and what that final cost is. The vast majority of these swales aren't going to be much longer than 60 feet in length unless you have a corner lot. So the total cost is going to be somewhere between $1,000. If you have a corner lot, it could be upwards of $2,000. And you credit the deposit back to that final total. So one question may be, why are we recommending to use city crews and not allow residents to come in and get a permit and themselves or have a contractor go in and do it. I like to mention, this stormwater system is pretty critical infrastructure. So we want to make sure that it's done correctly and doesn't cause a flood of your neighbor or even your neighborhood if it's installed incorrectly. And ultimately, at this stage, it really is just an aesthetic preference. It's not otherwise necessary or urgent. They've been functioning for a long time, so there's not a real time component associated with this. We know there's going to be a learning curve. Our public works staff is going to learn a lot about the best practices for doing it and retrofitting these. So that's why I'm really presenting this more as a pilot program, because I think there is potential, the long term, potentially the next year or a couple of years from now, once we get the hang of this and figure out the best ways of managing this process, that we could end up going to just simply a direct permit type of a situation where a list of approved contractors would be able to go in and do this work on behalf of city crews. We want to make sure that we fully understand what we're getting ourselves into and going in and retrofitting this stormwater system. And additionally, I think that the permit process, it's not necessarily easier or cheaper for the city to manage something like that as far as overseeing a permit. And even though we provide contractors all the time with permits for installing various things, we still have to dispatch our city staff, whether that's street, water, sewer, whatever work is being done. They have to go out and verify these things. A lot of times the folks that are going to be wanting to do this work themselves will probably be doing it on the weekends, and so our guys are going to be able to be out there checking on them when they're doing it. And then inevitably somebody's probably going to purchase the wrong materials and install it and then don't take it out. So that's really why we're looking at doing this as an in-house service to start and see what we're getting ourselves into before we potentially open it up for folks to do themselves in the future. Also, I think the question, begs the question of, does the street department have capacity to do this? Again, I think we're going to have to manage people's expectations when they come in and request a service that, it isn't urgent to immediately convert the swale. I think the folks that really don't like them are going to want them converted immediately, but again, it's going to be a long-term process, first come, first serve. I think if we see a huge demand of signups, throughout the spring, then I think, we can just simply bring on some additional seasonal workers. I think that part is manageable. Also, I think there's, I think some of us, even on staff, I think we might overestimate the true demand for this swale conversion process. I know we hear a lot of times people may not like something or they want to see something different, but when it gets down to it, with it really only being an aesthetic change, and we're going to be asking folks to cover the full cost of something like that, we may see that demand really drop relatively quickly once we're asking people to actually cover that cost. And then additionally, there's 7,000 housing units in the community. This standard's only been in place for about 20 years, from the late 90s to 2018. So we're only really looking at about 1,800 to 1,500 homes. That's about 20% of the households in the community. So then again, how many of those households are going to be willing to fork out $1,000+ for that conversion? So I think the demand aspect will be manageable, especially if we let people know that it's going to be a long-term process and it's not going to be the top priority for the street department to do these conversions. So in conclusion, the status quo has been in place for 20+ years. This isn't an urgent change, but it does allow, finally, after over 20 years, it does finally allow a path for conversion for the folks that don't like parking in front of the house and then stepping right down into a ditch when they go to get out of their vehicles. And then probably also really important, this conversion, this change of seating does not require anybody to actually make that change. It's only a change if people would like to avail themselves of that service. And that's all I have.
Mark, I have a couple questions for you. Many of these swales are irrigation. So is the city going to go in and also tear up irrigation and cap off all the irrigation to that?
Yeah, that's going to be probably one of the thorniest things to work through. As I know our street crews are aware of that. I think it's going to be really an issue just capping those lines off.
The other question I have to you is, could a person do partial? So say they like maybe some of it, and maybe they don't want some of it. Can they do part of it in rock and some of it leave
I didn't know.
I got a section on that I really hate.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay. And the other question I had was, you know, it's kind of a zero-scape kind of idea. Could people put zero-scape plants or something in there as well? I think currently bioswales are supposed to be tree-free, plant-free, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, trees aren't allowed in the planter strip, a lot of that gets back to just the root structure, so it's something that we could look into. But right now, that standard only allows rock rock.
Okay, perfect. Yes, Councilor Myers?
Okay, so the $1,000 fee there over, also the permit, and you've got a $1,000 fee. Does that include materials to do this with? I know it includes labor.
Yeah, so I'm really calling it a permit fee, that's just kind of the way we have it set up, you know, that really is, you know, inclusive of everything. So it's not really just $20,000 for the permit and then something else over, but that's really all the labor, all the materials. And then it's really what I think too, if you look in the staff report, I just included the street department's kind of sketch sheet running out with how the fee is calculated. Almost half of that cost is going to be in the material itself. So I think it's going to be a pretty big deal for folks to be able to hire a street department, you know, 10 spaces to be able to do this for. If you have that 60-foot frontage, you know, $1,000 from start to finish.
But that's only with your plan. What if the citizen wants something like, as Dave was saying, you want something different?
Yeah, so again, like I said, right now, rock is the only thing that would be allowed in there, and that's what our
If you have option one.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No other option.
Yeah, only options as long as you want rock.
All right.
So if there's only option one, are we going to do a regular inspection to make sure that option two hasn't grown where only option one is supposed to be? To make sure that it's, you know, weeds will grow anywhere.
Yeah, so as far as weeds are concerned, that would be a code enforcement issue if there's weeds growing there. So, you know, we get calls a lot right now for people's management of the swale, existing swale, so we do have code enforcement in place. It's really be a completely different process.
Yeah. Question I have is basically is kind of on the construction portion of it. Knowing that we have wind here, and wind carries sand and such, what is the, you know, what's the long-term infill on that type of a swale? I mean, you know, my backyard has gravel in it, well, it had gravel in it because it's been covered up by the dirt that flows through the area. So, you know, what's the long-term effect of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and that's where you see the subdivision that original picture was from. That's one of our first subdivisions that had these. If you go look at those right now, and actually even in that picture, you might be able to see that the curb cut was already grown over. I mean, like right now, the grass is almost blocking the water from being able to get in there. So I think if you go into some of these areas, it's not, the homeowners have gone and filled them in, but you have seen sand blowing in over the course of 20 years, so you start seeing that area rise. So that's definitely maybe something long term that we're going to have to contend with, but it's something that we're already contending with some of these that they're developing over time.
Yes.
Is this gonna be required for all new construction then, the new swale design?
Yes, so like I mentioned, our de facto decision for all new construction would be required to have no swale at all, and it goes straight underground, unless the groundwater level is too high, the DEQ doesn't allow that. And now you have two options for the construction. They can either still do the grassy ditch option, or if they want their folks buying their homes to be happy not almost in the ditch, the other option they have is to do the rock pocket. So that's probably important to keep in mind. They still would have the option of doing that.
Other questions? It's the only other question I had. You know, I would guess that if people install the rock swale for vegetation management, they're going to go in and just round up that whole thing, or cast on, or whatever.
how good is that for groundwater and the community?
Yeah, so, that, again, that's something that, we're gonna be doing a lot on, so, I checked, I'm not a groundwater expert. We can do it.
Any other comments, questions from the council?
Just a comment, I think whoever went to the Oregon legislature and got the second option passed, good for them. It does give our citizens options, and I know when we've been talking about water usages, the second option would probably be really good for water usage as well. So I think this is good work, and more options are there.
Good. Thank you, Mark. Is there any public comment on the resolution 2207? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2207 on record?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Davis, second by Councilor Jerome, that we approve resolution 2207 on record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Smith, Hermiston 2040 report adoption.
Yeah, so we've spent the past year going out, communicating with the community, trying to get feedback on what they would like to see the future of Hermiston look like. We started work last January. Sarah Wilson from our goal setting acquaintance has been leading that from a consultant standpoint. And here tonight we also have a few of our committee members. Appreciate them coming to support this. And so I've asked Sarah to kind of give you a quick walkthrough of the report, and then we'll go from there.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Can everybody hear me okay?
We got it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to work with the community on developing this plan. We're really proud of all of the work that's been done with the steering committee to move forward a summary of this input and hopefully a pathway for the next 20 years as Hermiston continues to grow and develop. And so I'm just going to share my screen here, the results of some of the outreach that we've conducted and how that's culminated in the 2040 plan. Can you see this presentation?
Yes.
Yes. Slides showing up? Okay, great. So just a quick overview, I'll talk briefly about the process, the results of our community engagement, and then walk you through the draft vision and actions that have come from that outreach, as well as an implementation structure that we're recommending to move the vision forward. So just to start with the process that we designed. Here you can see it's outlined in this graphic as a continuous process, because the plan is intended to be a living thing that continues to remain relevant and help to guide the community as we move forward. So we started with just preparation and thinking about where are we now, and you may have seen the community profile that was developed as part of that, thinking about what some of the current trends are in the community, and then thinking about where are we going. And that was really the phase where we were exploring and learning by doing lots of outreach across the community. And we'll talk more about those outreach results and the outreach that was conducted here in a moment. And then taking that outreach and extracting the themes and really thinking about what we were hearing from folks. And that's where we started to zero in on what is the vision for Hermiston? What is it that people want to see 20 years from now? And using that vision as the foundation for the goals and the actions that you'll see in the plan. And then finally, here we are, ready to get started and implement change. And so hopefully we'll gather your input tonight and see you adopt a vision here in the near future, so that we can the community can begin to get to work and moving some of these things forward. So our community engagement results, as I mentioned, we designed in concert with the steering committee and staff, a communication and engagement plan. And the foundation for that plan are these 5 goals that you see here. And so we're striving to engage all people in the community and designing our engagement efforts to reach as many people as we could. And then also design a process that maintains engagement momentum. So through this, we saw people who repeatedly engaged in the opportunities that we offered. So whether they took a survey and then they also came to a vision lab, and maybe we saw them at the open house as well, but that people are interested in making a difference in the community. And so it was great to see some faces throughout the course of the project, and hopefully they'll continue to stay engaged in the implementation efforts. Another goal that we had was to create broad project awareness and be really inclusive in our outreach. And so we hope that the brand and the materials that we use to promote the project, people were seeing that all over the community, and that created some recognition of the work that we were doing. We also wanted to make sure that the resulting plan included some specific goals and actions, so that it felt really tangible as far as what is this going to look like for implementation, just more than just a statement. How can we actually move the vision forward? And then finally, evaluating the results of the communication engagement efforts. We actually are wrapping up a survey now. We're just trying to learn from some of the engagement practices to see, how they vary in the community. And as you guys continue to do implementation of the vision, thinking about some of the lessons learned from those evaluation results of our engagement efforts. So some of the outreach activities that we conducted, you hopefully saw some of the key messaging and branding with the 2040 logo around town and the city materials that were put out over the course of the last year. We have the community profile, fact sheets. We did a monthly e-blast, sometimes a couple per month, depending on what sort of activities we were promoting. We have a 2040 website where people could find all sorts of information about the project, as well as on the city's website. We used all the city's social media outlets, as well as encouraged our steering committee members to use their social media to help push the message as far as we could into the community. Intercept surveys at community events. We had materials that were translated in both English and Spanish. Outreach toolkits for our community members to be able to use some of the tools that we designed to reach their networks. Flyers, videos, radio, in person. We did our open house in December. The community workshop. We also had some focus groups, virtual focus groups, community leader interviews, online surveys, community events, and working with other organizations to help get out in the community and really get some rich input. So as you can see, this is just some numbers as far as how many people we reached through these various mechanisms, and really had quite a bit of input. As far as who we reached in the community, it's hard to measure in all of those different types of outreach, but in the online survey that we conducted, we had over 1,000 respondents there. And one of the questions that we were able to ask in that format was just about some of the demographic information. And so you can see here a comparison of who we heard from in that online survey versus what the Hermiston's demographics are. And this was a helpful tool in being able to gather this information because we wanted to make sure that the outreach we were doing was representative of the community and that we were hearing from everybody. And so in any of these numbers that weren't trending with or weren't aligned with the community demographics, we tried to take that information and enhance our efforts in other areas. So one of the differences you'll notice if you look down in the chart under race and ethnicity is we were falling short in the online survey in reaching the Latino community, and so we worked harder in our other
outreach efforts through targeted outreach in our vision labs, reaching out to the Hispanic Advisory Committee, and in other forums to make sure we were reaching that segment of the population. So just gives you an idea of who we heard from, at least in the online survey, and just know that we use that to try and reach those that may not have been, whose ideas may not have been represented. Let's see, a couple shots from our open house there. See, it was really good the night of the tree lighting in December, and had a good turnout. Kids were really excited to be decorating Christmas cookies, and we were able to engage some youth in the community as well as all of the adults that came through with their families and gathering up information. So we had over 200 people come through the open house that night to look at the draft vision, the goals, the actions, and they weighed in with their priorities during that exercise. In addition to that, we also hosted some vision labs back in November, where we had all of the input that we gathered through the survey and through the community events. We had all that organized into 9 topics and 4 separate vision labs in November. And that allowed us to have some really in-depth conversations with folks in the community about, just checking in with them on some of the outreach that we had, some of the ideas that had come through in the summer outreach, and dig a little deeper as far as developing those goals and ideas into actions. So this is the result of all of that outreach, of the draft vision and the action plan that we found in your packet. And summarized, there's a longer vision statement that really describes what people want to see for their future in Hermiston. And then a shortened version of that is really a community where friendliness and opportunity abound. That really sums up in a few words what we heard from folks and throughout all of this outreach. People feel like Hermiston in 2040 continues to be, and even more so, a place where everyone is welcome, whether you're visiting or looking for a place to call home, a safe, beautiful, and close-knit community where neighbors help one another and friendliness and opportunity abound. With a booming economy to recreational amenities, big city services grew and small town values. So that statement really sums up what we heard from folks, and I hope that feels relevant to you and reflective of the things that you hear as elected officials in your time in conversations with the community. The vision plan itself is organized into 4 major goal areas, and under those goal areas, you will see a few action items, and if you dig deeper in the appendix of the document, and even throughout the document, there's some really specific actions that fall under each of those goals. And so, the 4 goal areas, goal 1 is a growing and prosperous Hermiston. And under this goal, you'll find some actions such as expanding the retail, dining, community attractions, increasing housing opportunities, economic opportunities, and the world-class education and support services for people of all ages. The second goal area is around a safe and healthy Hermiston. And this is offering access to diverse recreational and wellness opportunities, working with community partners to establish a network of services that supports individual and family health and safety for all, and then providing a healthy and safe environment. Some of the specific items under this area include things such as this is one where we heard a lot about the indoor recreation and aquatic center, expanding and enhancing Hermiston's park inventory. Some other things as far as community health, we heard things around access to more mental health services, attracting more medical specialty providers. What else did we hear in this one? Working with community partners to develop solutions to address the challenges of homelessness. And then also that healthy and safe environment that translates into some actions around a police force that's aligned with the growth of the city and desired public safety outcomes, safer and more connected neighborhoods. So actions such as that. The third goal area is a connected and engaged Hermiston, and the actions under here are activities, attractions, events for people of all ages. So we heard so much about how much people love Hermiston's community events and only want to see those grow. Facilities and events that celebrate and promote Hermiston's culture, history, and art. So that goes anywhere from celebrating the history and the cultural diversity of the area to the performing arts, and people just really recognize that Hermiston has a rich diversity and lots of culture and history, and so any opportunity people have to come together and celebrate that is welcome, because we heard it time and time again from folks in the community. Let's see, and then also enhancing community outreach and collaboration with Hermiston's community partners was the third goal area. So people just recognize in the community that things get done through partnership, and continuing to maintain and strengthen those partnerships will be important even into the future. The last goal area is the sustainable Hermiston. So sustainable can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people, but what we heard in the vision outreach was really supporting services and policies that preserve the natural resources, so things such as investing in alternative energy infrastructure, providing more opportunities for recycling, and so simple things, it goes for anywhere from more complex things like energy infrastructure to just recycling facilities. The other thing as far as sustainability goes is improving the city's mobility. I think in any community you'll hear about traffic and congestion, and that's no different in Hermiston. People want to see, as the city grows, making sure mobility is preserved and people can get to and from where they need to go. And then lastly, in sustainability, the infrastructure needed to support a growing community. So we know that Hermiston is the fastest growing community in Eastern Oregon, and so continuing to invest into the infrastructure that supports that sustainable parking. We heard a lot about the airport in this one, so there's a lot of that, just again, continuing to think about what sustainable growth looks like in Hermiston. So that is an overview of the 4 goal areas and the vision for the community. As far as how you bring that forward, the implementation structure that we're recommending to make sure that we can really bring this vision to life is an important component of the plan. And so the purpose of the implementation structure is to ensure that there's some accountability. We asked a lot of the community and showing up to share all of their ideas. And now we want to make sure that we're being accountable and bringing it forward. And so that the implementation structure helps to create some of that accountability. It also will provide a mechanism for reporting and celebrating progress on the plan. And then also a way to think about what sort of challenges are we encountering as we move towards implementation, and what sort of opportunities can we leverage that are aligned with what's in the vision. Lastly, the implementation structure provides a mechanism for making updates to the plan. So again, as I showed you in that initial process graphic, it's meant to be a continuous process, and you want to make updates to the plan to make sure it stays flow. So the structure that we're proposing is that the city creates some sort of oversight team. Lots of different ways to format this. It could be a task force, it can be a committee of some sort, but creating some sort of team that would provide oversight for the vision plan and help to, one of their tasks would be to work to prioritize the actions and then assign lead partners to move some of the actions forward. So those lead partners don't necessarily have to just be, doesn't have to be the city in every instance or a city department. They can be other organizations in the community. Again, as we mentioned, we engage with lots of folks, and people are excited to help move some of these things forward. So working with community partners, other agencies, the school district, the chamber, there's lots of other organizations who can help move some of these actions forward. Again, emphasizing those partnerships that make things happen in Hermiston. The other piece of the proposed structure would be to ensure that you do an annual report and update of the plan. So working with those partners who are assigned to the actions, checking in with them to see where those actions are and how things are going, document any challenges that they might be facing, and see if there's any proposals for updates to make sure, again, that those actions stay relevant. And then at 5 years, check in with the plan and maybe go back out to the community and gather some more input to see what's changed. We know that we've learned anything in the last couple of years that the context can change. And so in order for the plan to stay relevant, you want to check in every so often and make more significant updates to keep things on track and moving towards that overall overarching vision. So that's the structure that we would propose to move things forward. And at this point, just to think about some next steps would be to adopt the vision and action plan, and then let's celebrate it. We did a lot of outreach to the community, so we want to make sure that we celebrate that, communicate it, and let people know that there's a way to continue to engage with the plan. If they want to serve on some sort of oversight team, or work on helping with the implementation by serving as a partner somewhere for one of those actions. So those are really the next steps to celebrate our efforts and then begin the implementation. So at this point, I will pause and see if you all have any questions that I can respond to.
Thank you, Sarah. Can you see us?
I can't see you guys, so you'll have to.
This is Mayor Brown.
Hi there.
It's good to see you. Thank you for the presentation this evening. So does this conclude your commitment to us in this project?
I think so. We'll get everything, we'll finalize once the council provides input tonight. We'll make any adjustments to the plan that needs to be made and get this document finalized.
And this is a process that started like 2 years ago, right? Feels like it started.
We started, well, it started when the council put this as one of their goals at the retreat, yes, 2 years ago. And then we did have with the pandemic some change in it to make sure that we were reaching everybody as far as the outreach portion of this. So there was a bit of a stop-start as we waited to see how we were going to engage those throughout the process.
Well, I just want to applaud you, first of all, for your time and effort and your yeoman's, just putting grinding this out with us for 2 years and fighting through the pandemic and making sure that this product came to fruition. I have to compliment you. I have to compliment the leadership group and the steering committees. You really did a good job of identifying what I believe is a great vision for the city for the next 20 years. Also identifying the who is Hermiston, what our community values are. I mean, that's why we live here. That's why we love this community. That's why we moved here, for many of us. You guys did a great job in identifying that. And I just want to applaud you for your leadership and helping this group get through that. And just say thank you.
Well, it was my pleasure. You're so welcome. It's just to hear all the things that people love about Hermiston, and to hear some consistent things about them. I've heard in the past 7 years that I've got to work in the community that these ideas continue to be important to folks, and so it's been really rewarding to document that as part of these goals and decisions for the future.
I'm really surprised you haven't moved here yet. Mr. Smith, what is the plan moving forward with this, and what's the direction we're going to go?
Well, we're requesting tonight that the council adopt this or change that they see, and then I envision that within, at our next meeting, we have some discussion about what that oversight committee looks like, and kind of get that in place so we can start looking at it. I think also it's appropriate that we're kind of finishing this up right as the council goes into the goal setting, and that gives you an opportunity to take some of these things and offer, what's a priority, what are some good things we can do out of this kind of a quick win. That was some of the discussion of the steering committee, to show the community that we're listening, we're doing the things that we're interested in. So that's kind of the vision that I have at this point.
I know there's a few members of the steering committee that are here this evening. Anybody would like to speak to this project? Jared, come on. You never been quiet. Sure, come on, yeah.
That makes it easier, then we're not on the spot. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Jared Pratt.
Jared, welcome.
Hi.
Cameron Bennett.
Welcome.
Bethany here.
Welcome.
And as I recall, I think there was somebody here that had a baby during this whole thing too. Somebody on your staff.
And I also, Jackie won't stand up, but she also was part of our steering committee, so.
Yes, well, thank you guys very much for your 2 years worth of dedication and effort. You guys got to be super proud of this baby you're producing, right? I mean, it's an amazing outcome. You guys want to speak to it?
Yeah, I had the chance to go to a couple of outreach opportunities and get to pull people aside. It took a minute to kind of convince people that I wasn't trying to get something from them, get their input. So we hope that members of the community continue to give that input and listen. And I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that we do see it, that we see that this is something that we take year by year. And I think the point of a quick win is a valid point, that we get something that's visual, that the community can see that we have something here from the plan, it's put in place that we can see these things work. Because the concern is that all of this time and effort and sacrifice, especially when we have Sarah and those who have been spearheading this, is that we see it here, but then it falls by the wayside a little bit. So maybe some sort of regular bulletin or some way that the community can see the steps we're taking to implement all of these changes. Just it's being seen a lot. That's kind of our main concern.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jared Pratt. I guess my title would be has been. My wife and I moved here in 1991. I did a job for 10 years as a superintendent of schools. And during that time, 31 years here, I was Jimmy Crowder's president, involved in all kinds of projects and community things. And it's been a joy to be in Hermiston. I mean, I see people I know, Maria, Rod, Dave, Jackie, they were here for years. I've gotten a chance to work with those really fine people. Having done this here, I've had an opportunity to do that in other places. One was the city of Tiger, another one was the city of Tualatin, another one was the city of the River. Of those three communities, one did really well, one did fairly well, and one didn't do well. And they did their planning, much as we've done, and gathered ideas, and that sort of thing, but that's where it got stalled. And I think there's some lessons learned that I'd like to share with you just a little bit. In terms of next steps, one of the things we talked about, and your manager just talked about what we need to do. One of the things we identified as a plan, but we need people more than here tonight. And I laud the city council for taking this project on. I think this was excellent. And I think we had a really good process. But we've got to begin to take a look at all the batch of things we have, because there's a number of them, and we can't do them all. We're going to have to prioritize. That's step number one. So all those good ideas, which are the ones that are going to really make a difference? Which ones are going to grasp quickly? And what are going to take some long-term plan? So prioritization is certainly a big step right now. Those cities that didn't do that didn't fare well. It all was like, do you remember what happened to the schools we had 5 years ago? Nothing ever happened. So we got to get serious about what we're going to do. Put it out there and advertise it. Next thing you need to do is enlist support. You got to figure out what the financing is. All of these things, the city took this on, but the city can't pay for all of this. They can't do it all. You got to have enlist help. You're going to have partners. You're going to have business. You're going to have some support. So that's the next thing that needs to happen. Those things you identify. What are the costs? And who are our partners? And who can help us with the work? Who really rolls up the sleeves and gets our hands dirty and gets out there and gets it done? And I think back years ago, we didn't have a park, we decided to put a park, And that was all done by manually. I mean, I remember being that part of that group of guys that was out there with skill saws and we built it there. It got burned down, got built again. But it took somebody to get out there to enlist the help of those people. It took many hands. It wasn't just a goal on the wall. So we've got to do some prioritization. We've got to figure out the financial cost of that. We've got to enlist partners that have an interest in those areas. So we go back to what we did as a committee and find out, okay, you said you're interested. Put your money where your mouth is. Where are you? It doesn't have to be their money, but it's got to be their efforts. So I think we've got to do a lot of time. And that networking happens with all this industry. You're all key leaders, so it should be a piece of conversation that you should be having. And we need to get people engaged in that kind of thing. So they're willing to get their hands dirty, get involved, roll up their sleeves. The other thing is the sustainability of it. These things that we build and do will cost in the long run because they'll have to be repaired and insured, all kinds of things. So we need some real planning about this in the future to really make this happen and bring some life. Those cities that did those things did relatively well. Those that didn't, it was just a nice little one piece of paper that they forgot. So I hope that, can we do everything that's on that list? Of course not. That list is huge. In the long run, we might be able to, but in the short run, whatever we do, we want to do well. And that includes prioritizing, figuring out our partners, and financial stability of the public. So those would be my comments tonight. And I want to thank you, Byron, particularly for inviting me to be on the committee. I enjoyed it very much. They did a good job as a company, and I think we still have a great community here. Lots of future.
Yeah, I really agree with what has been said, and also appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the community. It's rewarding, and just want to highlight some people and departments that really helped a lot in that effort. Parks and Rec helped a lot, especially in summer outreach, in letting us kind of be back on some of the events. And then we have done close to this probably Lily was there, you know, I would say after hours, like all the time I could get it. But yeah, it was great to see just so many people in the community set up and help. And also, I just want to give a picture of what I heard, not in specific ideas, but just from people outside of our community. Actually, I was really surprised. Cameron was there. One event we participated in was a triathlon, and I think another event that was sponsored that people outside of our community from, Tri-Cities, I mean, even I think other end, Parks would have was probably that information, you know. But it was really eye-opening for me to hear them just praise our programs. And I have only lived here in my whole life, with my family, and so I, like I said, I don't know how great we have it, because I definitely have utilized special works and recreation programs, but to hear that other cities maybe don't have that, or just that maybe their residents don't have that impression, and that they came here to participate, and I thought that was great, and I was really proud to be a member of this community and to hear that feedback firsthand. It's just really rewarding.
It wasn't big enough for me.
Jackie, did you want to say anything to this?
I really enjoyed being on the committee. It was a lot of fun. It was nice to get out and talk to people about it and feel interest.
Yeah, Sarah does a good job of leading committees and conversations.
So she's very good at that.
She makes it fun. So, well, thank you guys very much for your leadership and involvement and engagement in the process. You guys should be really proud of the outcome of this. I'm super excited about it. I'm looking forward to what we can do as a community to reach some of these goals. Counselors, any comments, thoughts? I know some of you participated as members of this. Mr. Burrow?
Just wanted to thank again the community members who are here present today. I know that you guys did a lot of work also for the committee. You guys showed up time after time again. I know during this pandemic, honestly, it was really hard to get people to volunteer on just any committees or just things that that are going around town. I know a lot of us felt COVID drained, just over and over having to attend meetings and to be present. Sometimes it felt like you were the only leader there or the only person there representing. So I really thank every one of you guys that were a part of the committee. You guys, his input is invaluable. That's why we have the product we have today. And to you, Sarah, thank you so much for being able to power through this. I know that you had also things in your personal life, like having your child, and so it was really great for you to be able to work with us and doing 2 jobs at once, essentially. So really thank you for that and for organizing this 2040 committee with keeping the positivity going in the meetings. I guess to the numbers that were also reported, I know that the committee really tried to get the Latino input in our 2040 committee from our Latino citizens as well. And it was just a really difficult time to be able to have the numbers that we wanted to. But I know the committee fought really hard to be able to outreach as much as they could on different means, on radio. So I'm just really proud of the efforts all the committee members did, all the ideas that they brought forth, all the volunteer hours, either in the committee or outside the committee at those events. Without you guys, it really wouldn't have been possible. And so I really look forward to working with a lot of the committee members, whether we have a Mayor's Task Force. For this 2040 committee, we saw how successful our Hermiston Park task force was. So whether it's a task force, whether it's a committee, I think it should be updated as well. It's worth to keep note that this was done in the middle of the pandemic, so I would like to see, just like Sarah's update was saying, something maybe 5 years down the line to see where our goals are and to see if we have a little bit more respondents than we did in this 2020 year. So more than anything, I'm just really happy with the product. I'm really happy this is ready for goal setting. The council will be able to look it all over and see the final results. So thank you again, Sarah. Thank you again, Byron, for forming this. Thank you again, committee members. We couldn't have done this without you guys.
Other council comments?
I actually would like to thank the community members, but also Mr. Smith for allowing the community to really come up with the ideas and giving them the freedom to also, think of all the different ways that we could do the outreach. And of course, as you guys have said it as well, thanks to Lily also for helping and making sure that at the events we were equipped with the materials that we needed, making sure that people were signing up. And of course, Sarah also for doing such a fantastic job in organizing our meetings and leading the meetings as well, so that we would be able to openly share our views and concerns and our ideas. So thank you to all, and to also the community members that took the time to attend one of those events or answer the survey online, or whether it was one-on-one with an individual. Because now you can see that your opinion has mattered, and that we are going to be taking a look at what you responded to make those changes in our community. So I want the community to know that it was not a waste of time, that your input is really valued. So I am looking forward to sitting down with the rest of the council to see what's going to come of this, and to also report back to the community members and to the community as a whole as to what we have chosen to do as a council. So thanks everyone for the time.
All right. Other councilors? Okay, so we have a action item here, need a motion to accept. Is there any other public comment? Anybody else want to speak to this? Okay, I need a motion to accept the Hermiston 2040 report.
So, second.
Moved by Councilor Brown, second by Councilor Myers, that we accept the Hermiston 2040 report. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to the 2040 committee. Thank you again, Sarah, very much for your leadership and help, and Lily and Byron for your leadership as well. I can promise you this council is not going to put this on a bookshelf and let it get dusty. We're going to integrate it into our goals that we set for ourselves as a council, so that we can listen to the community, that they were heard, and we can integrate those plans and future goals for our community. So I look forward to that conversation at our goal setting session coming up next week. So we're going to move on to the December 2021 financial report.
Yes. Yes, I'll turn that over to Kay.
Okay, welcome.
I'm in the reading. Okay. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me tonight. We've gone through 6 months of fiscal year, so this will basically be a milestone event in the second quarter. So for December, I know it's on. There we go. We first look at your, we get collected 98% of projected property tax revenue for the month of December. That's for the whole year, 98% of the whole year. We got triples all through the next 6 months. So I predict we're probably going to be north somewhere 102%. Last year at this time, we collected 201 of $205,000 budget. So it's looking really well. The one thing I want to highlight to you here is in our wayfinding sign and expense category, you can see it's at 120% over budget. That's because we pay for information kiosks out of the wayfinding sign dollars that are not budgeted. That will probably require to get council approval to expend those funds since we're over our budget before the end of the year. Just want to make you aware that's probably going to happen. As you look at the general fund and resources, we were low on what we collected versus what we projected for the month by a little over $400,000. And as I look back, I'm making a guess that we were over in November by almost $400,000. I think people just paid their bills earlier in November that we have seen historically, and they didn't pay in December, because a lot of people want to get the benefit of that discount. Right now, I'm still 3% ahead where we had projected to be, which is a good thing given the pandemic. We look at the expenditure side of this. I look back every month for the time that I've been here. We have never basically almost hit right on the dollar what we projected as expenditures for a month. Statistically, there is no variance in what we projected. I just put a pat on my back for that. Our process worked this month. Still focusing on mission critical issues. We're basically through 6 months, 17% below our projected expenditure level. As you know, our practice is to under budget revenue and over budget expenditure because we don't ever want to ever be taught not having enough money to do the things we need to. This is a very sound practice to follow. Highlighted expenditures on some of these items is 112 because overhead cost allocation, which you can see almost all departments are in black. Recreation has been very aggressive in getting things done as far as all our programs as we try to continue to deal with the pandemic. So they're just a little bit on through the period. We have legal, we brought the city attorney on board, which does doing a great job from what I hear. Again, we're 14.5% below our projection. So where are we with the general fund? Right now, we are right at 16,766. That puts us almost 2.2 times over the minimum reserve requirement, $2,150,000. As you heard, we are going to look at a different way to possibly calculate the minimum reserve requirement to give ourselves a little more cushion in the future. We're looking at that right now. I'm going to consult Barney tomorrow with what their ideas would be that they mentioned possibly in their findings on the audit. But that's something that I'll probably come back to council in the future to see if we can't find a meaningful resolution to make a change in that process for the minimum reserve requirement. This is one I'm embarrassed to talk This is the utility street funds report. I say the first half of fiscal 22 funds are in good shape. You look down at HGS fund, they're 823,000 over projected and 807,000 over in expenditures. And regional water fund. I put this together and set it down. I usually do my analysis after. I should do my analysis first going forward, because that's not the case. The actual numbers are correct. Our revenues and expenditures are absolutely correct. The projection is where we have a problem. And so you should have, I hope, a revised schedule of that table or report, if you will, on paper as to place. You will see none of the numbers change for actual expenditures or resources, but their variance to projected changed. So I've highlighted in red. If you look at the street fund, not a whole lot of change there. The utility fund, not a whole lot of change from the other, but massive difference between HGS fund and the regional water fund. Just to flash back to folks that are watching, if you look at HGS fund, it said they were 823,000 over projected favorable variance. They were 807,000 over expenditures unfavorable variance. Whoops, went too far back. They actually are over 800 and some thousand, but their expenditures are nowhere near 800,000 over budget. Again, this is only based on what we projected by 1/12 every month expenditure basis. We have a calculation there. The difference is not correct, and I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. When I make something a messy calculation, I fix something up. And I'm glad to answer your question at this point, because I decided I would like to avail myself of Assistant City Manager Morgan's expertise in our construction work in progress comments as we go through where we are with our capital projects. So I will let Mr. Morgan go on to wherever he thinks is appropriate time.
Yes, as you can see, the award of the contract meeting for the level 6 package generator. After that, a lot of those capital projects may not seem like there's a lot of movement right off of them. And really not just because a number of them are really all intertwined. So we have projects like lift number 3 upgrade is what's actually opening up a number of the projects. We have the North First Place street reconstruction, North First Place water line replacement. And I should say lift station number 6, lift station number 6 reconstruction. So North First Street reconstruction, North First Place water line replacement, and lift station number 6, not lift station number 4 reconstruction. All of those 3 projects are all waiting on the lift number 3 upgrade. Doing obviously to really, I think one of the big benefits is having the 5-year capital improvement plan, looking out in the future so we can begin to bring a number of projects to bear all at the same time when we know that we're going to be doing work in an area that North First Place street reconstruction. We were awarded $4.5 million to do from the state several years ago. That's when we started to look and say, okay, we can do water line replacement, and while there, we should also replace this sewer lift station. So when you're doing something like that, sewer infrastructure goes on the bottom, and that's the deepest, and then you have water lines, and you're on top of that, and then you're getting on top of that. So when we bring that lift station number 3 project, that's going to be coming across the area North First Place. We'll be rerouting lift station number 6, and we're going to reroute that. And so once we get those done, then we'll go in and do North First Place water line replacement. And we always are on track for North First Place street project for construction in 2023. That's going to be on the backside. So we're still working on a couple of issues with the lift station 3 project, and we're going to get those resolved here shortly. And I think we'll have further activity on other of those projects here in the presence.
Okay. Then let's look at what we call the city capital projects. Airport rehab, just a holding pattern right now until they get out there in the spring. Riverfront Park rebuild for all intents and purposes, except for playground installation, is completed. I would note to the council that we have done that with our own monies right now because we have to be reimbursed by FEMA, and we haven't gotten a dollar yet. But in any event, over the rest of this winter and in the spring, Mr. Archer shares me and staff will be out there to get ready to put all the playground equipment in place that they have. South Hermiston Industrial Park, LID, Local Improvement District. Again, this is one that for all intents and purposes has been completed. We've spent the money we've spent. Now we need to figure out how to pay for it. At some point, we will have an assessment with the property owners that their funds will be contributed towards the expense of that project if the EDA will give us an action. City Manager Smith has been kind enough to keep you all informed about where we are with the City Hall. I don't know if they have it all yet. It's looking nice. I mean, I can see things. So my wife can't yet check that picture. I can see things how it would look like. You're going to go things on the council chamber. I think it's going to be top notch. But with that, I'll ask any questions the council might have.
Any council questions? Financial report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Any public comment on December 2021 financial report? Come on up. Gotta come to the microphone, sorry. Mr. Hanson.
I didn't understand the presentation. Quick question. You're saying that your budget is right, the revenue is right, the expenses are right. Is that correct? That the balance of what your projections are off?
My projection was calculated incorrectly, yes, sir.
What does that mean?
That means I make a best, let me go I make a best guess what I think our expenditures will be through the year that is budgeted. And I had a miscalculation through 6 months of what we projected the expenses to be. Once I corrected that, then I compared that to what we've actually spent.
Okay, that's what I thought you said, but that wasn't really clear on the way you said it. And obviously projections are projections.
Yes.
And so getting on projections is, you try to hang on as best you can, but as long as your revenues and your expenditures are on the right track, really good at projections. I'm sure you can think well.
Any other comments on the budget? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to accept the December 2021 financial report?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Barone, second by Councilor Davis. We accept the 2021 financial report. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. So, Ms. Smith, goal setting update.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to be a little bit more detailed than the upgrade. This is going to get some more business in there. I got to town. I'd like to go into a little bit more detail as we're going into our goal setting session next week. And so, I'd like to talk a little bit about each of the goal areas. So our first goal area is to develop an engagement and communication infrastructure to provide accessible engagement opportunities. And there were 4 areas under that. One, we completed tonight, completing the community vision process. And so very happy to have that. And I think that really taught us quite a few lessons about community engagement and how we can do it better, and things, different tools we might be able to use. Also, a couple of those are related. Embrace technology to improve outreach alternatives and improve two-way communication, and trying a couple of different tools over the past year to increase that two-way communication. Polling, surveying, different ways, using different tools. And so we're finding some things that are working, and we're trying a couple other processes to go forward. And so I think we've made good progress. We definitely haven't found a final, silver bullet. For one, I don't think that exists in community engagement. I think we're always going to be trying to do better. And then break down barriers to participation and increase multicultural engagement. I think the vision process, the committee really worked hard to try to do that, trying to find some different avenues to reach out to different demographics. I think, the city working with the Hermiston Cultural Awareness Coalition and doing some things in that way also are ways that we're trying to again to reach out and be in tune with the various cultures and groups within the community. So is there any questions on that particular item? All right, goal number 2 is exercise fiscal prudence and adhere to budgeted expenditures to improve financial sustainability. First item, specific item, is develop a plan to recover from COVID and return public fund balances. I think the report we saw tonight has shown that, and I think as we utilize those federal funds to give us that cash flow that we needed as we rebuild some of our parks and rec programs and other revenue sources that dropped off during the pandemic, we'll be back in a good position with that. And then evaluate Hermiston system development charges. Those were updated in September of last year after we did a full study and really came into compliance with current state law on that subject. Then goal number 3, support the development of housing to provide diverse and affordable housing options. Our first item, develop a green property for senior housing. We went through a process, had a little bit of a down, ended on a little bit of a down note, but I think it taught us a lot of things and gave some good information. We have not returned to this item full steam, but have some other ideas about possible options, but this one did not get fully completed, though we, I think, at least one good effort, and we will really be looking for council discussion about, how we approach that and when we build that. Then fund infrastructure improvements to support new housing and enhance livability. And this one is marked as ongoing because we look for these opportunities in different ways as projects come to the city, and how we can make investments that the city would make in a way to find assist development or make it a little bit easier. Now we're working on a possible project in the southwest portion of the city that could do similar to what we did with the water tower on the northeast corner. Goal number 4, invest in transportation infrastructure to improve mobility and support growth. First item, fund Deer Harbor Road improvements. We're still working towards this. What we've been doing is allowing our cash to spool up because we know this is an expensive project. And so we've been doing some of the design. We also ran into some hiccups as far as the design related to the railroad. We think we've got those taken care of, and we'll be moving towards that 2023 time frame to try to complete that construction. The next item, extend Gap Road. We're continuing to make a strong effort to get some funding through state and federal government for this project, and then also work with our county partner to bring this project to fruition, which we really need from a mobility standpoint and to really help transportation flow for the long term. The last item in that area was completing the river bridge analysis. So we're waiting right now at basically time to see a final report from the engineers on this analysis of looking at Pumpkin Center versus Elm, Extended, and which one might be the best option. And we did that in collaboration with Untitled County and City of Untitled, which I think really kind of enhanced the discussion as we looked at those two options. Then in the fifth goal area, foster community partnerships to address local and regional issues. The first one was partnerships related to mental health services. And during this year, it really wasn't any effort of ours, but community counseling solutions became a mental health provider in the county, and that really already brought a change. All of you were able to talk with the CEO of that company, and the police department has been able to establish a good relationship with them and their staff, and I think that this will be a positive item for mental health in our community. Yes.
So, on that, comment again, there were definitely people in this room that helped in that process. Community counseling solutions have been a win for our community from my perspective, and because of the relationships in this room, I think there's reasons that they can hear. Also, I wanted to ask the question, Jason, how has that relationship been so far? Have you been able to work with them, integrate them into the police force, and how is that relationship proceeding going forward? She's been, or they've been in here 3 months now? 3 months.
Yeah, a huge undertaking for coming, so we're kind of slowly rolling into that partnership. As an example, I was on the call last night, and the officers were dealing with somebody at the hospital, had to deploy the taser. CCS was aware of the individual and responded to it last night. So, huge, magnetic difference from what we saw before.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to this continued conversation about resources that they're able to allocate to our community and helping, especially in mental health and our household population as well as police force integration. So I think that's awesome when our community as far as identifying that goal going forward. Thank you.
All right. Next item, enhanced partnerships with the EOTech stakeholders. Last week at the EOTech Advisory Committee meeting, the committee unanimously approved a RV event parking plan. Still in kind of conceptual, but it's moving forward, and I think that was a good sign, and I anticipate in the next month we'll bring forward a more detailed plan and with a plan to fund that investment at EOTech. Next item can be a regional conversation on homelessness with the county, neighboring cities, and other service providers. We've been an active partner in discussion with those groups. I anticipate in the next 4 to 6 weeks we'll be bringing more details, having community discussion about that, so that we can really work towards a joint solution. There also have been written into a proposed bill that will be going into the short session this year. We're hoping if it is adopted that we receive $1 million to that collaboration of those cities and the county to help us get the project on its feet and move forward. So we're really excited about that. That's a collaboration between the new cities and the Association of Counties as well. So that's very exciting. Develop partnerships with child care providers and youth programming providers. So as we went through the pandemic, the Parks and Rec did some child care efforts. The EOTech, many works at EOTech did some efforts to try to provide opportunities and provide spaces for some child care opportunities. So this is probably one of the larger issues next to housing as it relates to economic development and workforce development, and so we continue to look for opportunities and how we can work in that area. Improving partnerships with the local business community. Over the past few months, we've been working closely with the chamber director, and that's been very fruitful. We've also, the chamber was highly involved in the 2040 committee, and so overall, I think those partnerships have been improving. Work with healthcare providers, the state and county providing information and access to the vaccine. We did all we could. It didn't end up, EOTech ended up hosting a clinic that they looked in, the hospital looked at that as an option. We did other things that we could to support the efforts and communications. Final item in this is develop partnerships with the county, state, and federal agencies to support transportation investments. So in addition to seeking the funds we talked about earlier, we also have been working with ODOT on 2 different pedestrian crossing improvements that are in final stages. One's in the final stages of design, the other one's a little earlier. But at Highway 207 in Orchard and Elm and Butte Park, both putting in some safety measures for pedestrians there. And then working with Umatilla County to improve road conditions around EOTech. We partnered on some paving on off-road that was outside of the grant that we had already been working with them on. And then the final goal area, number 6, plan for city facilities to meet current future needs. We've spent a lot of effort on exploring broadband fiber options to support city facilities. And as just an update this week, there will be extensive surveys going out to the community, both on the residential side and the business side, to try to get more detail about where holes are, what the holes might look like, so that we can see if a city investment, how a city investment in fiber for our facilities might be then partnered into greater service for the community. So we're hoping in a few months to be back with the council talking about the results of those stats survey and how that's moving forward. So. And then finally, conduct 2 items: conduct a city facilities assessment, which we have not finalized. We're waiting on that until we finish the fall, and then we'll do an assessment of all the facilities that we will be actively using and work forward from there. And then finally, complete a feasibility study for the Health, Wellness, and Aquatic Center. There was some preliminary work done a few years ago. We did a little bit more follow-up work this past fall with a public finance class from the University of Oregon that gave us some analysis of what it would look like. I'm sorry? What it would look like on some different options of how we could operate or construct a large facility like that. So we'll have that information, and we need to then do a little bit more and have some more conversations. As you can see, you probably may not have seen the sheer number, but the indoor aquatic center was by far the most popular item in all the survey and the community and other forms of community outreach. So I think we have to continue to talk about it and try to understand and figure out what we can do to meet that, then discuss that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Smith, I always look forward to these quarterly updates. It's exciting to see all the accomplishments that the city's had. Congratulations to you and your administrative team and all the staff in the city working hard to accomplish these goals that are set by the council. It's exciting to look back on the things that have been achieved and see the successes that move forward. So, you got to set the target, but you also have to monitor those targets and make sure that we can progress to them. And so, holding people accountable, I think, is part of the process. And this is part of your ability to share with us your accountability to those goals, and I appreciate hearing these reports and how hard the staff is working towards reaching those goals. So thank you. Council, comments, questions? No, we'll have some more conversation with this when we meet next week. That's correct. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the, I'm sorry, can I get a motion to accept goal setting report update as presented? So second. And moved by Councilor Turner, seconded by Councilor Spicer Coon, to accept the goal setting report update as presented. Vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Committee reports. Committee reports. Who wants to go first? Councilor Burrow.
Alrighty. I have the pleasure of attending two committees. So one, like City Manager Smith talked about, was the EOTech committee. I know Mary will probably talk about it as well in your comments, but it was really great to finally have an agreement with all stakeholders and to move forward with the project. So I know that initially that was one of the things that we wanted was the RV park, and sometimes people don't like it because it takes long, and sometimes maybe the processes last a long time, but it's all worth it if our community members are on the same page. We agree, especially with that campus and facility going to expand. It's good that people are happy where it's at and moving forward. It looks like a lot of projects that everybody's happy about. So that was the intake. I also had the pleasure of attending the Youth Leaders Show. That was another committee that was going on. They were talking right now about the portion for New Utility in Hermiston right now. New Utility is doing a lot of property owners as well, being able to donate land or finding a way to get an easement on that land. So it's going to be a long time before that comes into fruition. A lot of property owners, individual property owners, federal government, and a bunch of other stakeholders. But it was a good meeting. It looks like New Utility is on their way to constructing their path that's going to eventually, I think, lead right by the recycling plant. So I think that's where they're going to take it, and then we're going to take it from there as a city. It was interesting also knowing the projects that are coming with that for the replacement of the bridge, which I think is going to be about $6 million. So just a lot of infrastructure projects that are going on. And so overall, it's going to have benefits to the west side of the community, which is great. But also kids going to school from South Village and Utah. So it's just things that are going on in our community that are really great because we're growing. We're Hermiston, but the area around it. So those are my two community updates.
Thank you. Yes.
We did have our first Parks and Rec meeting of the new year, and for the first time in about 2 years, we had a full committee present after our new appointments. I think we have 3 new appointees. Only one person was missing. On the Funland report, fencing is going to go in soon, and the speakers are not here yet. The night vision will be correctly installed at that time, and then will be monitored by the dispatch of PD. Riverfront Park, the parking lot is complete, the playground is ready to be put in, and we do have the playground equipment because it was shipped with summer. And skate park, they were working the budget to reflect the new construction input. On the boat ramps out of Walking Park, they're still working on some grant monies. Recreation coordinator vacancy is a vacancy that they're looking for someone to coordinate special events. And so that, has that already gone out, or how are you going to advertise for that?
We have been advertising, we get a lot of applications, so we're going to have to advertise. So if there's interest, please let people know that it's available.
Describe the shooting was.
With Brandon moving into director's position, he's kind of restructuring how things are going to be, and we won't replace the recreation manager type position. We've got two, I forget the title.
Two recreation coordinators or managing facilities.
Yeah, so the two, Diane here and Natasha at the pool, and then we'll have kind of another recreation coordinator level person who will then focus on some of the special events and be kind of take a load of those along with the help of the whole team, but they'll be more focused on events and as well as then handling a few other recreation programs.
And then we had some program highlight updates here, and the one that impressed me hugely was the youth basketball is up by 58%. Not that you wouldn't expect it, people have been without activities.
58% over last year, that would be too tough of an achievement.
Yeah, well, I didn't mention that part. And then they're having the open gym is working out very well, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 to 8.
Up in EOTech. Yes. So pickleball and other basketball, basketball, 5 to 8, EOTech, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay, awesome. Other committee reports?
So at the faith-based, or something to report on for the faith-based advisory committee, Mr. LaFall has sent a draft letter to 20 pastors from the area so that he can let them know that, how that came to be and some of the things that we're working on, and to also invite more pastors to start attending our committee meetings. And at the Hispanic Advisory Committee, we had Susan Bauer there, and she is running for county commissioner, so she came and introduced herself. We also had Dr. Tricia Mooney that gave a presentation on the boundaries. And I want to thank Mark and Mr. Clint for working, collaborating with the district, by providing some information that will be useful, that was useful, so that they would be able to make the decisions as a committee. So thank you for doing that. We also learned that Mr. Kamalski is trying to put together a Hispanic art fair that will be taking place. Let's see. Guess I don't know the date, but something is in the works and more information will be coming out soon. But he wants to have it in the summer, and we'll have it, I believe, at Mackenzie Park. So he's trying to come up with a plan and get others to be involved as well. And that's the report that I have.
Okay, Mayor's report. A couple of things. I wanted to, first of all, congratulate Hermiston High School on their large graduation rate increase. And we have a school district representative tonight, they'll have to remember next week, but it was great to see the success of the school district and their increased graduation rates, and especially among the Latino population, making a big improvement. I think we were above in both categories, above the state, which is a huge accomplishment for Hermiston. Not often that we do that, so I wanted to compliment them. If any of you have questions or comments that you would like to share with me about the county, I meet with the County Commissioner Murdoch tomorrow. I meet with the County Commissioner and on a pretty regular basis. So if there are any issues at the county level that you want to address, please get them to me. Legislative session is upcoming. We have a couple of things that we're working on there. Mr. Smith alluded to one, participating in a pilot project for homeless dollars within our community. I think we're one of 10 communities that have been identified across the state to out of this. So hopefully we see some legislative outcomes there, working on funding for transportation, great projects, as well as some water infrastructure funding through legislation. So hopefully we can see some positive outcomes this session in Hermiston. We got to participate in the MLK Walk. That was an exciting event. Many of you were there, well attended by the community, even though we had to have it outside and weather was fairly cool. It still turned out to be a pretty nice day and great turnout, good speakers. So I always enjoy participating in that. I'm sitting on the LC, as you guys are aware, I'm treasurer. As the treasurer, I'm also responsible for the finance committee this year. And so we had our first kind of small group meeting. We'll be in next week as we look at the LC finances. We had a small cities meeting this week. I don't know if any of you were able to attend. I think Mr. Smith was there. But that was online, and I guess pretty well attended. And then strategic planning is next week. Is that right? Or strategic planning, or goal setting session? Yes. Goals next week. Just want to remind you guys. Wednesday and Thursday. And times?
We'll start at 5:30 each night, and we're trying to maximize our time. The dinner will be here before that, so we can start work at 5:30 and ready to use some time this weekend.
So dinner will be there at what time?
Whenever you want.
Okay, so half an hour soon enough for folks. Can we get there by 5? Okay, and each. And be ready to go by 5:30. That would be awesome. My brain doesn't function very well after 8 o'clock, so let's try and you can stutter. And so trying to get that kicked off and roll right at 5:30. So please get there early, eat, and be ready to roll. And then, Mr. Smith, why don't you get a tour of City Hall? I mean, everybody else has a tour.
I just want to get to the product, to a place where we have better access, and I think we're getting close. So, had a good meeting with the contractor this morning, talking about some things. So, I anticipate sometime in February, we'll pick a day, one of the days, and hope for some better weather, and we'll go walk through.
Is the elevator functional?
No, the elevator's not installed. That's the issue.
What do you do?
Jack, you went to the MLK lot.
I'll wait till summer.
All right, councilors. Yes, Councilor.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Hermiston Police Department for being persistent and all of the folks that were involved so that they could solve that 7-year-old homicide case of the shooting of Alonso Madrigal. So thank you for that. That was something very special for the family. I also want to thank those that were involved in the MLK March. I was unable to be there, but I saw from what was reported in the newspaper that there was a good turnout. I also want to thank Mr. Smith for also working with the high school teachers to try and get some student involvement for the student city council so that we can have them here at our city council meetings and possibly other communities. I think that is so important to have our youth be part of, at an early stage to get involved in the city. So those are my thank yous for the time being.
And just for clarification, it wasn't a 7-year-old that was murdered. It was a
7-year-old case.
Got it. So, yes, I was lost there for a second.
Sorry.
But I agree with you, the persistence of the police force paid off after 7 years of having an unsolved murder case. So it's nice to bring some resolution to that family. And I appreciate I think half the workforce, police department was at the MLK walk. So I appreciate their willingness to participate in that as well and helping to support in that. So thank you, Chief, and your officers for supporting of MLK law. Anything else from the council? Okay, Ms. Sherman.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Harper to come up and talk about a couple other items while it's here. Again, sort of preparation for goal setting to maximize. I want to give a quick update on a couple of parks. Jack did mention a couple of those things, but want to make sure you were aware. But just a couple of items. The Utah Cafe Appreciation Dinner. I think all of you see that invitation. I just want to let the council on Utah Family Foundation. I won't be able to make it to that this year, but please make sure if you're interested, please go. It's here then. And I know Fair really appreciates this participation. So now let's start.
Thank you, Council, and just kind of want to follow up on some of the trends that Ms. Meyer was talking about. Our basketball, back in 2019, we didn't have a league. In 2020, 2019, we had 290 participants. This year, we have 450 games. So some actual numbers. It's awesome to see having people out, wanting their kids to start again. Flag football is the last league we had 132. This last fall was 272. Soccer last spring, the previous season was 215, and this last school round was 345. So the pandemic is causing people to want to get out and recreate again, and we're so excited to see everybody out there and doing it. With that, sometimes I'm expecting the amount of people that we have out there. We keep open enrollments and we try to fill as best we can. We don't turn anybody away until the deadline hits, and so our staff is maxed out right now. But we're excited to have them there, be able to use the school facilities to put on these recreation programs. There we go. So just a quick update on the playground, kind of echoing what Ms. Myers said. Beautiful facility. This was taken during City Fest. Awesome to see so many people out using the view park and the public playground. I love visuals, so I just want to, if you haven't been out recently, it doesn't look like this because there's great weather out of our public playground. It's a beautiful place to be. All hours of the day, if the weather is half decent, there's kids out there playing. Parents bring kids out all hours, and it's just awesome to see kids using the facility for what it was meant to be, and go back out there enjoying the playground. All right, move on. Yes, get to the fence. I want to get to the security cameras here pretty quick. Security cameras are installed and operational. This is just a quick snapshot of what we're able to see on the 10 cameras that go around the perimeter of the playground. It's monitored through a geofence motion capability at a specific point in the evening. When somebody crosses that geofence, think of lasers going around the perimeter of the fence. Somebody crosses through that and sends an alert out, and it goes right to dispatch and some other email addresses as well, letting them know that there's somebody within the playground. We've seen incredible response time by the PD to get out there. I think the first week that it was put in, there was an arrest made of someone with 8 warrants that were outstanding. So able to get out there and take care of business that's going on in the playground after hours. I think once people know about this, especially going into the summer, spring and summer, that the police department will be out there monitoring, making sure that the playground is taken care of. It'll detract from a lot of unnecessary things going on out there after hours. The security lights are operational as well. They are on a timer, not to go on until after 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. They are not playground lights. They're not designed to play for security. a lot of things in the Order Place surface, steps, alligators, other things out there, they cause or put down a lot of shadows. And so we've had incidences during the summer of kids tripping over things and causing minor injuries. So again, we have signage up on the poles that says sunrise to sunset, the playground hours. We want to emphasize that as well. Security lights will come on at a designated time. Hopefully all those kids are in bed because it is a late time, but that's for PD to see if things are going on at the playground. And this is an example of what the cameras look like up there. There will be a speaker system installed here. They're on back order, just like every other piece of technology. Hopefully we'll get those in soon. And that's part of the geofence up there.
What's the speakers for?
There'll be an audible playground is closed. Please leave the premises. The police department has been called or notified. And this was a lot of after hours, after 11 o'clock.
So something trips, geofence.
Geofence are the others. Perfect.
Maria has a question.
Yes.
So how do you keep that equipment from getting damaged? I mean, what's to stop someone from throwing a rock at it and damaging the equipment that you have to alert the police department? Is it tall enough where it would be hard for someone to be able to like throw a rock at it or something?
It's only going to pick up human-sized figures. We've had a couple cats go through there. We've had to adjust what the geofence is actually going to catch. Somebody throwing a rock through there, it's not going to catch anything.
But ultimately, you can't stop somebody from throwing a rock at it. I mean, it's up there. You're going to have a pretty decent arm to get to it, but they can still damage it, unfortunately.
So the fencing, met with Farm City again a couple weeks ago. We're scheduled sometime in March. Again, narrowing down those dates is difficult, extend it out, but they're hoping to get it in, start working on it in March. This is a black rail fence that I'll be talking about. These are the pickets that we've been selling, similar to what we had in the previous Summer Playground versions. These are not wood, they are plastic made out of recycled milk jugs, things like that. So this is an overview of the playground. Black rail fence will be in the front, installed into the concrete on the outside of the walkways. Previously, the fence was on the inside of the walkways. This gives us a little more real estate on the inside of the playground. It'll connect up to our nice archway and entrance, and here the entrances and the exits, and some points in the playground. On the back side will be the pickets all the way around, and the donors that bought pickets, they'll be facing on the inside. So this is a plan put in place. We do have already an order that we've received of the pickets. We are still selling them because we have not sold all the way around. I believe that once we get the pickets start going up into the park, people want to put their name on it as well. And so any revenue generated from these tickets will go into future amenities right now.
So if somebody wants to buy a ticket, how do they do that?
Contact us. It's on our registration website. It's on our website. You can call us and you can get it ordered from. These the fencing that's described here is not what's going to go in. It's the only kind of PNG I can find to be able to replicate what the fence is going to look like. But that's how it'll attach to the arch there and then go around the perimeter. So it won't have the spikes but it'll be a nice, no razor wire. Some future enhancements to development, working with the Lions Club. Oh, sorry.
I have a question about the fence. I guess with the tripwire and cameras, is the front fence necessary? I think the pickets with the names, obviously the donors would love to see them, but I guess, is there a purpose for the front fence?
We've got a lot of feedback on constituents, people with kids, a perimeter around the area, corrals the kids in, make sure that they don't run into the parking lot. Just kind of a safety barrier to allow, parents to have an ease of mind that they're not going to, if you have multiple kids, they go off to different portions of the playground. It's a large area. For the most part, it's keeping the kids within the area.
I guess my worry is accessibility. This is supposed to be an all-accessible park, and with limited entryways, I think that deters from it, or I guess the original attraction of that being all-inclusive. I do get the point, though, of a containment measure, but I thought the fence was primarily more of a safety feature rather than a containment feature.
Every entry and access point is going to have concrete leading up to it. The portions that are fenced are going to be grass, so the accessibility will go on to an accessible pathway.
Mayor.
Yes, so, Councilor.
And I think you can answer part of that as well as a former first grade teacher and military user. You don't want your kids to be able to go wherever, and so the cameras are also going to be able to, track where they entrance points. But if you look to see where they are, they're going to be for a wheelchair and that kind of stuff, wouldn't want to go anyway. Because wheelchairs have, and walkers and everything have very defined ways that they can get from where they might be, and from what I've seen, that's not going to be an issue because it's still going to be highly accessible from what I know. So, just my 2 cents.
Very well, thank you, Councilor. Any other questions on fencing? Some future enhancements that we've been discussing internally and with varying clubs is a 3D tactile map. This has been proposed by the Lions Club back when we were in the initial design phase of it. And this would give accessibility and be able to display the features to visually impaired. This is a map actually Portland State designed and is displaying, and it's raised edges so that the visually impaired will know where certain features are within their campus. This is also a map that's down in Eugene at a playground, describing what the playground looks like and what the features are. And so again, working with the Lions Club, they're kind of taking a lead on it as far as research on how to do it and possible funding avenues. But we're excited that there's a possibility of having a map like that for Puntland. Also, Puntland history, as we've heard, Puntland was built by strong hands within our community. We don't want to lose that. Right now, we don't have any of that history described out in the playground. So having panels like we put around in our other parks, describing how it came about, the people that were involved, is important to me to not lose that sense of history and accomplishment that the community put in. And then another asphalt feature is a pinata pole. With the amount of parties, people out there wanting to use Puntland for birthday parties, a dedicated pinata pole where people can go and hang, string up their pinata and have a safe place to do it, I think would be an awesome attribute to the park. Any other questions on Puntland before we move on? Yes.
One more question, one more thing. Along with the 3D tactile map, that was come up in a lot of lines in the meetings. Getting some yellow strips or something on the steps for things walking down, especially in the iron ship. for people with visual impairments, they can still see enough that they can get around, but they still have visual problems. So, I mean, they can't see where those steps are at. It's just black steps over a black background. It's very hard. So I mean, that's something that I think we're asking for as well. We'd like to see how
Definitely take that into consideration. Thank you.
Well, and then definitely not putting a sign like that in the middle of the sidewalk so somebody's just gonna ram right. You don't know who idea. I know that's not ours, but that's still, we don't want to do that.
Sorry, I have a good question. A public playground will not be rented out privately, but the park shelters next to it can be rented out for specific birthday parties and other events. Or we'll go into a neutral location between the two shelters, kind of away from the play area, giving a concrete pad around it, so and designating where the swing zone is. Yeah, moving on to Riverfront Park. Again, another community gym that we have, and a lot of work was put into it. This is aerial view of that 2020 flood that went through there. This is the main floodway going right through the previous parking lot and play area. And so this was taken into consideration when our 20-year flood happened 2 years in a row. We need to mitigate these factors and move the parking lot and the play area to another location. Again, a visual of where that floodway is going. And so on this map, I wanted to highlight where the new parking lot is and the new play area. It's underwater here, but it's not the floodway. This is more standing water, water that's just come up over the edges, and it's not flowing at the direct path that the river wanted to take. So this is construction back in October. You can give you a visualization of what new parking lot areas can be, and reference to where the old one is. Again, another visual, and this is this past Friday, the completed project, new parking lots in the playground area. Again, another park that we have in our system that is heavily used. There's people out there all the time making use of the trails all the way up the Oxbow. And it's a good opportunity to see the usage of it, and gotten a lot of calls on where the parking lots can be when it's going to be done. And we're excited to say that it is open. The other parking area has been closed down, and we're in the process of removing all the old gravel and repurposing that in the other parks and playgrounds. And just some other photos of what it looks like. If you haven't been out there, again, I encourage you to go take a look at it, take a walk, enjoy their beautiful playground or parks. And then, as Ms. Myers had said, our Riverfront Park playground is in our hands. It's at our park shop. It came on the road with the last round of pump and playground equipment. It's a park ranger lookout station. It'll be a cool feature in the playground and the park. From the top of that, you'll be able to look down into the river and just see an awesome new amenity that the park didn't have before. So, with weather permitting, our crews will be out there installing, hopefully be done by April before the pool season starts. And one final thing, Ms. Myers asked me to talk about is what I mentioned at our Parks and Rec committee. Myself and our park manager, Tassia Robbins, will be going down to the Association of Aquatics Professionals Conference in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we'll be giving a presentation at the conference on drone convention, developing a drone convention full screen facility. So we're excited about the opportunity to speak to the national conference and be able
to learn from all the other speakers as well. With that, I go with any questions.
Well, congratulations, and thanks for representing Hermiston in that program. Thanks for going to share your wisdom with others and those who learn from others. So that's exciting. Rescue, any other questions?
At this time, no, the restroom is still functional where it's at. With the farm that was there before, that's where the plumbing was at. So there's going to be other processes to possibly move that restroom to a new location. Just haven't figured that out.
There will be one, it'll be functional.
Yes. It'll be not down by the park. We are probably going to be putting porta potties in down by the playground just to have quick access for those kids. Can't make it.
So maybe at some point in the future, as you develop a structure down there.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions about parks?
Okay.
Yes.
So, did you use any parking spaces, or is it the same amount that you had before on the other space?
Because of the wide area that was out there, there was a lot of nooks and crannies to be able to park in. We didn't lose any parking spaces, but the overall size has been turned down quite a bit.
So if people park,
they can park on the shoulder, yes. So if they can't find a parking spot in the interior, they can park.
I mean, the picture just shows which was just flat, right? I mean, it's not beautiful layout, and it was also, so
it was, yeah.
May have been one of the.
Yeah, you know, the reason that it is that shape and that size is there's 2 trees on either side, and we already had to take one out, and losing trees, it hurts my heart. So, you know, the more trees we have down there, the more comfortable setting that it is.
Yeah, okay. Mr.
That's it, thank you.
Nothing else? Okay, so we have some other business to do tonight, so I'm going to adjourn the city council meeting and convene the urban renewal agency with a declaration of quorum, and we have some new business this evening. Mr. Spencer,
Yes, Mr. Spencer will be talking through a facade grant application.
Yeah, we have a facade grant tonight for property located at 379 East Main. Owners are Stanton and Smith, and this is the property that is right next to the secondhand store. There's a little storefront that's between the secondhand store and the house, and so this is the area that they're proposing to do a facade modification to, where they will be bringing the front of the building, which is recessed now, up even with the sidewalk, redoing some stucco, putting on new windows and doors and an awning. Estimated budget is $23,318. The Planning Commission reviewed this application and scored it at a 50% match. On an application like this, our matches max out at $10,000. So if they come in at their budget, they would be receiving a $10,000 reimbursement grant.
so this is property next to the old pawn shop.
That's correct.
Between that and the houses to the west.
Yeah.
Okay. So, questions from council?
I thought the plans looked nice, great improvement.
No questions, but thank you, Clay, for including the facade grant application reviews. I think the last one we had didn't have this, so I appreciate that. The packets are here and numbered by the people on that committee.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Is there any public comment for the slide there application? The applicant currently says they do want to hear your speaking. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Slade Smith, push that button. There you go. Slade Smith, 490 Hermiston, Hermiston. Appreciate you taking a look at our application. The intent there, is everyone clear with which piece that is? It's been making from what we know to be at least 12, 14 years. So the intent there is just brings to make sure you get some more activity going, get some people a little farther down the end of town and improve that piece of zoning and get it included in everything going on. Questions for me?
Slade, is that something you just gotta do the construction on it and we start doing it once?
That is, we'll keep the property and just turn it into a retail space.
Okay, so you don't have anything identified that's gonna be in that space yet?
We have very interested people in that space that hopefully real soon we'll be able to do that.
Perfect.
On their behalf.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the planning commission recommendation of 50%? So. Move on the entire council. Give it to, yeah, I'll give it to Councilman Davis. She made the motion, and Councilman second. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Obviously, people are excited to see something good happen to that piece of property, so thank you for taking that on. Congratulations. Any unscheduled communication for the urban renewal agency?